World War II was not only fought with tanks, planes, and soldiers, it was also fought with secrets. Behind the bloody battles and fiery skies, there was another war taking place, a war of intelligence, deception, and codes. And at the heart of this shadow, war stood one machine, the Enigma, a device so complex, so revolutionary that the Germans believed it was unbreakable. They trusted it to protect their communications, their strategies, even their most deadly secrets. But what they never expected was that this very machine would one day be stolen and turned against them. For the German High Command, the Enigma was more than just a typewriter-like device. It was their invisible shield. Every message sent through it was scrambled into an unreadable puzzle, only to be unlocked by another Enigma machine tuned to the same secret settings. With billions upon billions of possible combinations, the Germans were convinced no human mind, no enemy could ever solve its mysteries. This blind confidence made them reckless. They believed their communications were safe, but they couldn't have been more wrong. By the early years of the war, the Allies were desperate. German U-boats were tearing through Allied shipping in the Atlantic, sinking merchant vessels carrying food, fuel, and weapons. Convoys were being massacred in the open sea, and Britain stood on the edge of starvation. Commanders knew that the key to survival was hidden inside the encrypted orders sent between German submarines and their headquarters. If those messages could be read, the Allies could outmaneuver the U-boats and strike before it was too late. But there was one terrifying obstacle. Every single message was locked inside Enigma's unbreakable code. Breaking Enigma wasn't just difficult, it was considered impossible. Mathematicians, cryptographers, and spies across Europe tried, and all failed. The Allies needed something more than skill. They needed a miracle. And as fate would have it, that miracle came in the form of one of the most daring and dangerous missions of the entire war, a mission to capture the Enigma itself. Years before the war reached its peak, a small group of Polish mathematicians had already begun working on the problem in secret. Led by Marian Rejewski, they built replicas of the Enigma and even managed to break some of its early codes. Their work provided the first crack in Germany's shield, but when the Nazis upgraded the machine, the Poles could no longer keep up. Still, their early breakthroughs were not in vain. Just before the German invasion of Poland, the Poles shared their research with Britain and France. That gift of knowledge would later prove priceless. One of the most dramatic captures of the war happened at sea in 1941. The Royal Navy, locked in a deadly battle with German U-boats, managed to cripple one submarine and force it to the surface. As the U-boat crew tried to sink their own vessel to keep it out of enemy hands, a British boarding party launched into action. These sailors knew they had only minutes before the submarine slipped beneath the waves, but they climbed aboard anyway, braving gunfire and explosions. Inside the half-flooded vessel, they discovered what the Allies had been searching for: an intact Enigma machine and code books that revealed its secret settings. It was the kind of turning point that history is made of. The truth, though, was not nearly as clean or victorious as the story might sound. Boarding a sinking submarine was as close to suicide as a soldier could get. Many men lost their lives in those desperate operations. They drowned, suffocated, or were cut down by enemy fire. But their sacrifice meant that the Allies finally had the weapon they needed to begin breaking Enigma. It was courage, not luck, that put the machine into Allied hands. With the captured Enigma and its precious code books, the battle shifted to a quiet English estate known as Bletchley Park. From the outside, it looked like a simple country house, but inside it became the beating heart of Allied intelligence. The greatest minds of the time were gathered there. Mathematicians, linguists, chess champions, puzzle solvers, anyone with a gift for cracking problems. Among them was a young and eccentric genius named Alan Turing, a man whose work would not only help break Enigma, but also lay the foundation for modern computing. The challenge was relentless. The Germans changed Enigma's settings every single day. That meant the Allies had to break the code anew every 24 hours before the intercepted messages became useless. Thanks to the stolen machine and documents, Turing and his team were able to design mechanical bombs that tested thousands of possible combinations in minutes. It was a race against time, fought in silence, with the fate of millions hanging in the balance. The information unlocked from Enigma was given the code name Ultra. It became one of the Allies' most closely guarded secrets, known only to the highest leaders. With Ultra, convoys could avoid deadly ambushes. Commanders could predict German troop movements. Even major offensives could be anticipated before the first shot was fired. Winston Churchill himself would later admit that Ultra was the single most important factor in shortening the war. Some historians believe it saved as many as 14 million lives. What makes the story even more astonishing is that the Germans never realized their machine had been compromised. They continued to trust it, to rely on it, to base their war plans around it. Every careless operator mistake, every repeated phrase, every overconfident message became fuel for the Allies' codebreakers. The Enigma, once thought to be the symbol of German invincibility, had quietly become their greatest weakness. The story of the stolen Enigma is not only about technology, it is about the bravery of sailors who risked drowning inside submarines, the brilliance of mathematicians who worked day and night in secrecy, and the determination of nations that refused to give up. Without it, the Battle of the Atlantic might have been lost. Without it, D-Day might have ended in catastrophe. Without it, the war itself might have dragged on for years longer. But this is only the beginning. What happened next inside Bletchley Park, the genius of Alan Turing, and the battles influenced by Enigma's secrets would go on to shape not only the outcome of World War II, but the very future of technology and intelligence. When the Enigma machine finally fell into Allied hands, it was not the end of the struggle. It was only the beginning. What the British sailors pulled from the wreck of a German submarine was a key, but the lock itself was still monstrous. The Germans had designed Enigma so that its settings changed every single day. That meant whatever advantage the Allies gained could disappear in less than 24 hours. To truly make use of the stolen machine, the Allies needed a system, a brain powerful enough to fight back against the billions of possible combinations. And that brain was found at a quiet country house called Bletchley Park. From the outside, Bletchley looked like nothing more than an English manor with sprawling lawns. But on the inside, it became the nerve center of the Allies' code-breaking efforts. Dozens of huts and blocks were built in secrecy, each filled with men and women working tirelessly around the clock. The people of Bletchley came from all walks of life: mathematicians, linguists, chess players, even crossword champions. They worked under strict secrecy, forbidden from telling anyone, even their closest family, about what they were doing. Their job was to pierce the armor of Enigma day after day without fail. Among them was a man whose name would one day be remembered as one of the greatest minds of the 20th century, Alan Turing. Quiet, awkward, and eccentric, Turing did not look like a soldier, but his weapon was mathematics. And in the silent war of codes, he became one of the Allies' deadliest fighters. Turing realized that no human team, no matter how brilliant, could keep up with the daily race against Enigma. The German settings changed too quickly, so he proposed something radical: machines to fight machines. With his design, the British built electromechanical devices known as bombs. These machines worked by running through thousands of Enigma settings at high speed, testing possibilities far faster than any person ever could. They didn't solve the code on their own, but they stripped away the impossibilities, narrowing down the field until human cryptanalysts could make the final leap. For the first time, the Allies could realistically keep up with Enigma's daily changes. Still, the job was never easy. The Germans often updated their procedures, adding new rotors or tightening discipline. Each time, the team at Bletchley had to adapt, to find another weakness, another loophole. But the stolen Enigma machines and captured code books gave them the foothold they needed. Instead of staring into complete darkness, they now had a lantern to guide them. What followed was one of the greatest intelligence coups in history. The information drawn from Enigma decrypts was given the code name Ultra. It was considered so secret that only a handful of the highest Allied leaders were allowed to see it. Churchill himself treated Ultra as a priceless treasure. Messages decoded at Bletchley Park were often on his desk within hours, allowing him to react to enemy moves almost in real time. Ultra began to turn the tide of war in the Atlantic. German U-boats had been sinking Allied convoys at a terrifying rate. Merchant ships carrying food and weapons to Britain were being destroyed faster than they could be replaced. But once Enigma was broken, the picture changed completely. The Allies could now track submarine positions, predict ambushes, and reroute convoys away from danger. Instead of being hunted, the hunters were now the hunted. The U-boat menace was slowly strangled, and Britain's lifeline across the Atlantic was restored. But the value of Ultra didn't stop at sea. In North Africa, Ultra revealed the movements of German General Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox. With his supply lines exposed, his legendary campaigns faltered. In Europe, Ultra gave Allied commanders early warnings of planned offensives, letting them prepare defenses in secret. Again and again, battles that might have been lost were turned into victories because of what was learned at Bletchley Park. The Germans never suspected. They trusted Enigma completely. They believed it was mathematically unbreakable, and in a way they were right. No human could ever solve it by hand. But what they never counted on was that the Allies would combine captured machines, code books, and the genius of minds like Turing to do the impossible. Every time a careless operator sent a repeated phrase, every time a weather report was encrypted in predictable language, Bletchley seized the opportunity. The Germans unknowingly fed their enemies the very keys to their downfall. The work at Bletchley was grueling. The men and women there worked in silence and secrecy, often without knowing the full impact of their efforts. They never saw the ships they saved, the soldiers whose lives were spared, They only knew that every message mattered. Each day began with the same challenge: break the new settings before the clock ran out, and each night ended with exhaustion, only to start again at dawn. Many of those who worked there would never speak of their contribution until decades later, when the story of Ultra finally became public. For Alan Turing, the battle was personal as well as professional. He devoted every ounce of energy to the code-breaking mission, often working through the night. Fueled by an obsession to defeat the machine that so many thought was unbeatable, his bombs became the beating heart of Bletchley's success. By the end of the war, nearly 200 of these machines were in operation, processing endless streams of German messages, tearing apart what had once been the Nazis' most trusted secret. The true impact of Ultra is hard to overstate. Some historians believe it shortened the war by 2 full years. Others argue that without it, the Allies might not have won at all. Churchill himself famously told King George VI that it was thanks to Ultra that we won the war. That may be an exaggeration, but what cannot be denied is that the stolen Enigma and the mines at Bletchley Park changed the balance of power in a conflict where every advantage mattered. By the time D-Day approached in 1944, Ultra was providing a clear window into German defenses. The Allies knew where enemy divisions were stationed, how they planned to respond, and where their weakest points lay. This intelligence gave the Allies the confidence to launch the largest amphibious invasion in history. Without it, Normandy might have been a bloodbath. With it, the landings succeeded, opening the path to liberate Europe. Yet through it all, the secret of Enigma remained hidden. The Germans went to their graves believing their machine had never been broken. They thought they had lost on the battlefield, not in the hidden war of intelligence. The truth was kept so tightly that even many Allied soldiers never knew why their mission suddenly succeeded. The credit belonged to a handful of mathematicians, sailors, and codebreakers whose work remained invisible. The story of the Enigma capture is not just about clever machines or brilliant minds. It is about determination, sacrifice, and the belief that even the most impossible challenge can be overcome. The stolen machine was only the beginning. What mattered most was how it was used by ordinary people who did extraordinary things in the face of unimaginable odds. And as the war pushed toward its final years, the shadow war of codes and secrets continued. In Part 3, we will see how the victories of Ultra shaped the final collapse of Nazi Germany, how the codebreakers' silence lasted for decades, and how the legacy of Alan Turing's work went far beyond the war, changing the future of the entire world. By 1944, Bletchley Park had become the hidden heart of the Allied war effort. Thanks to the stolen Enigma machine and the genius of Alan Turing and his team, the Allies could read Germany's most secret communications. What once seemed impossible was now routine. Every day, the codebreakers raced against time, breaking new settings before the Germans changed them again. The results were extraordinary. In the Atlantic, U-boats that had once starved Britain were hunted down and destroyed. In North Africa, Rommel's plans were exposed. And in France, Ultra gave the Allies the confidence to launch D-Day. German defenses were revealed, their reinforcements predicted, and Hitler was fooled into expecting the invasion at Calais instead of Normandy. That deception saved countless lives and helped open the road to victory. The Germans never suspected. They trusted Enigma completely, never realizing their machine had betrayed them. To protect the secret, the Allies sometimes allowed attacks to succeed, sacrificing lives to keep Ultra hidden. When the war ended, the codebreakers returned to silence. For decades, their work remained classified. Alan Turing, the man who made Enigma's defeat possible, never saw recognition. Persecuted after the war, he died tragically young, though today he is remembered as the father of modern computing. Historians say Ultra shortened the war by at least 2 years and saved millions of lives. The Enigma, once a symbol of German power, became the key to their downfall. The stolen machine did not just change the war, it changed history forever.